Radio. Our theme music is composed by BJ Liederman. Our sound engineer is Robert Richards. Transcripts, podcast, audio, and video are available at amomentintime.com.
I'm poet Brenda Shaughnessy, filling in for Tracy K. Smith, and this is The Slowdown. The great poet Lucille Clifton taught me so much, not just through her poems, though her poems continue to teach and inspire and give comfort like no other. Her poems live on, beyond her death almost a decade ago. And these poems live in me as a reader and as a student of Clifton. I was so lucky to be one of her students. In her class, we held hands at the beginning and at the end. We went deep. It was uncomfortable and yet deeply compassionate, unlike the rest of school. I felt at home in her class, if home could ever be as full of feeling, full of a kind of recognition, a gift, and also pretty unbearable with sorrow. At the time, I was young, in my early 20s, and I thought sorrow was a bag I could probably learn to write my way out of. Lucille Clifton taught me that sorrow demanded more consideration. It was not simple, but it simply had to be lived through, lived with, incorporated, accepted, and that joy would be woven through, and space would be made for love, loss, and its reverberations, and poetry, and the painful triumph of surviving it all. The semester she was my teacher, she was going through cancer treatments at the same time as her daughter. I can hardly stand to say this, to remember how much stress and worry she must have been experiencing. It must have been nearly unbearable, yet she gave her students so much energy. Her life force was powerful. I was grateful to have had the chance to learn from a woman who had survived so much and had written such beauty. I didn't know at the time what was coming my way and how much her power, so generously given and shared, gave me strength when I needed it most. When I'm feeling the pressure of all the various responsibilities of being a writer, a teacher, and a mother, I remember that Lucille Clifton raised 6 children while writing poems in her head, writing them down on paper later when she had a free hand. Today's poem has kept me company during many difficult times in my life. When I'm really struggling, this poem will often come to me to tell me I'm not alone. It tells me that this lonely, difficult place is a place she has been as well, and that sorrows have their own weird way of keeping us company. Clifton reminds me that sorrows have a place in our daily lives. We may not lay out the welcome mat, but still, they take their place. Sorrows by Lucille Clifton. Who would believe them winged? Who would believe they could be beautiful? Who would believe they could fall so in love with mortals that they would attach themselves as scars attach and ride the skin? Sometimes we hear them in our dreams, rattling their skulls, clicking their bony fingers, envying our crackling hair, our spice-filled flesh. They have heard me beseeching as I whispered into my own cupped hands. Enough, not me again, enough. But who can distinguish one human voice amid such choruses of desire? The Slowdown is a production of American Public Media in partnership with the Poetry Foundation. To get a poem delivered to you daily, go to slowdownshow.org and sign up for our newsletter. And follow The Slowdown on Instagram and Twitter at Slowdown Show.
KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. Play about the great Pursuit leader Winston Churchill on stage at 7:30 p.m. Friday, October 4th. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/civic center or at 505-599-1148.
The most intimate of personal truths. Sometimes I am asked what the light years will let me see.
Wednesday morning here on KSJE, and that means it's time to take our weekly trip to the Encouragement Lab. And look who's standing by in the lab for us again this week. Dr. Mike Hattabaugh is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us, as always. And this week you are telling us about how to be Switzerland is the theme.
How to be Switzerland. I've met a lot of people that are Switzerlands.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
That would be a good version of that, huh?
Maybe.
So Switzerland is kind of the gold standard of being a neutral country.
Right, right.
So in World War II, Switzerland stayed neutral. Now, a lot of documents have been revealed that there's no such thing as a truly neutral country. And,
right.
and so Switzerland certainly played both sides well and made a lot of money is what they ended up doing in World War II. Mm. But I was recently in Spain and Portugal in the same week.
Okay.
And I found it fascinating that both Spain and Portugal were technically neutral countries during World War II as well, but they were neutral leaning two different directions.
Okay.
Spain had a long connection. Matter of fact, most people don't know this, but if you're a Picasso fan, you know this. Hitler's first mass bombing was actually in Spain at Guernica, which is Picasso's most famous work, is about that bombing where I think 20,000 people died or something like that. But that was Hitler's first mass bombing to see if it worked before World War II even broke out. But Spain technically was neutral during World War II, but they certainly leaned towards Hitler's Germany. Mm-hmm. And you go a few hundred miles to the west to Portugal. Portugal also was neutral during World War II, but the king of Portugal had big connections with England. And so they certainly leaned toward the Allies during World War II. So two different countries who, by the way, have always been enemies towards each other in a lot of ways, were both, quote, neutral, but leaned towards different things. And I think we're now in a place where I talk to people all the time. They're like, man, I really don't like what they're doing, but if I say something about that, they'll think I'm for the other side, and I'm not.
Ah, okay. And thus that brings us back to Switzerland.
Exactly. So how do you live in Switzerland in this political climate?
Okay. Yes. Please tell us.
First of all, realize there's a lot more Switzerlands out there. They're just quiet.
Right. Well, that's true. I know we have a lot of independent voters in this country and voters who aren't affiliated with any major party. And so I think folks would be surprised to learn just how many of those folks are out there. That's true.
Well, and not only that, but I put myself in that boat, but we tend to lean one way or the other, and I obviously do. I'm not going to tell you right now how I lean, but those are ideological. Those aren't political. Those, most of us that live in Switzerland most of the time, we don't like personality-based anything. So, don't ask me to vote for your candidate because of his or her personality.
Right.
I'm all about my core values, what I believe in. And it's one of the things I say lately is both sides have now made it incredibly easy for me to walk in and just vote for my ideas, not necessarily my candidates, because I'm as a Switzerland, I really don't like either side. And by the way, Switzerland saved a lot of lives by staying neutral.
Sure.
And
Right.
And that's one of my goals, I know, as a Switzerland.
Right.
Save my life.
And so in the minutes we have remaining, Dr. Hattabaugh, how do you kind of, if you're talking to somebody who is not a Switzerland, how can you maintain your Switzerland status?
Well, realize that every side has real, valid reasons to their point.
Okay.
Their basic ideas are based in some valid arguments. And what's interesting is that's true on both sides. And most people I know that aren't Switzerlands can't see that. They've either decided to totally block that out and say, that everything they believe in is wrong. Well, that's just patently not true. There's going to be valid arguments on each side. Now, in some cases, one argument may totally overwhelm the other, at least in our minds, but realize that they're both coming from a true sense of this is going to be lost or this is going to be gained from that. So that's important, number one. And number two, also realize the opposite. Every side has its faults, that every side has kind of this disproportionate sense of, the world's going to end if you don't vote this way, this time.
Okay. Does that include Switzerland?
Yes. Switzerland certainly had its faults and its valid points, which we're going to follow up the next week. We'll talk about as when to leave Switzerland, because sometimes you've got to take a side, even if you don't necessarily want to argue against the other side. There's times when it's okay to say, you know what, I can no longer remain neutral here. And next week we'll talk about how to do that, because it's also as well. But the main point today is realize it's okay to be Switzerland. Just be careful, because realize that as soon as you tell somebody you disagree with them, they're going to automatically assume that you've picked the other side. And that's just not true for most of us. Okay.
That is good advice. As always, Dr. Hattabaugh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And next week, we'll learn how to leave Switzerland, if necessary.
Exactly.
All right. That's Dr. Mike Hattabaugh. He is with me every Wednesday right here from the Encouragement Lab on KSJE Farmington. And taking a look at the weather forecast, it's going to be another sunny day today throughout the Four Corners. A bit cooler, though. Today's high in Farmington looking close to 70. Overnight tonight, 38 with clear skies. 80 in sunshine on Thursday. 78 on Friday. Sunny skies for Saturday and Sunday with highs in the lower to mid 70s. And sunshine again Monday with a high of 75. Overnight lows again from 38 tonight. 55 tomorrow night down to 37 on Saturday night, lower 40s for Sunday and Monday. I'm Scott Micklin. Thanks for joining me this morning, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow morning right here on KSJE Farmington, New Mexico, the information and cultural beacon of the Four Corners.
This is the Mental Health Minute with Dr. Ariel Lease.
Did you know we all have a unique language for feeling and showing love? Experts claim there are 5 love languages: affirmation, quality time, gift-giving, service, and physical touch. People with the love language of physical touch thrive on hugs, kisses, and snuggling. Physical touch is the simplest way to speak love. It heals, calms, and reassures. Learning a loved one's love language is a powerful way to build emotional security and a more meaningful relationship.
For questions or more resources, text 258-1029.